I'm delighted to be here with our distinguished panelists to have the traditional ADAS and autonomous vehicle discussion. And my name is Doron Tsuberi. I'm the founder of Self-Driving Cars 101, which is an open global community for professionals working in this domain. We started off at 2016. Actually, Omer Kelaf was the first speaker on our first event ever. He really set us up on a successful start. And we named ourselves 101, which is to say that we are still in the introductory course. We have an audacious goal, you know, our safer, automated future of driving. But we don't know quite how to get there to all the details quite yet. So we should gather together as a community to learn from each other and figure it out together how to do that. So now we are 8 years into the project, and I can tell you we are keeping the name 101 for now. We are still learning. There are a lot of unknowns that are being discovered. But most definitely, you know, on the flip side, the industry is very, very different from where it was 8 years ago. We are not in the age of hyped expectations and very aggressive timelines. Today, it's much about, you know, down-to-earth, down-to-work mindset with OEMs, with the help of startups and technology providers, introducing to the market safety features and safer transportation, means of transportation for the benefit for all the road users. So with that, I would like to start with a sort of a general question as for, you know, what is your current assessment of the state of the industry? Where are you in your specific work now? What will you be releasing to the market in the next 12 months and in the longer future? So, Alida, care to?
Yes, of course. So, first of all,
I'm sorry, we skipped the introduction round to save a few minutes. So when you answer, please do introduce yourself.
yeah, okay. I'm a director of research at BMW and responsible for perception and machine learning for automated driving, coming from Munich, and glad to be here today. So, regarding your question, you said, where are we today? So what we see, I think, is a very diverse market. So we see level 4 robotaxis, we see a lot of level 4 in transportation of goods, in port-to-port logistics, in platooning, also in agriculture, where we have it on the fields literally for several years now. Of course, we also have now the first level 3 vehicles that are privately owned, and BMW is currently one of 2 suppliers who has that on the field, as Omar also showed in his presentation. These are the first steps into level 3, I would say, into road releases. And of course, we see a very wide offering of level 2 functions currently, and that is increasing almost day by day, driven also very much by machine learning algorithms. We see that this is really pushing forward automated driving a lot. Where it will go in the future, it's very hard to predict. Of course, the goal is to reduce the number of human interventions per mile, per kilometer consecutively. However, we believe that all these different paths towards automated driving, they will still persist in parallel. I'm pretty sure it's just as diverse as our human lives are, as our applications are. But the main challenges are still, as also was mentioned before, there is a huge technological leap between a level 2 or a level 2 plus functions as we see them today and level 3, where really the vehicle is taking over responsibility. And then, of course, level 4, according to the SAE definitions, where you are no longer, as a vehicle, you can no longer ask the human driver to take over controls within a given ODD. So there is a lot of standardization still to be done. There is still a lot of technical problems to be solved on the way there. But yes, we are evolving step by step, and I think there is a lot of interest and a lot of activity on the market, so we will get there.
Good. We will dive deeper into that in the forward questions. Ariel?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ariel Sobelman. I'm with Valens Semiconductor. I've been with Valens for nearly 17 years, so it's quite a long time. we've been in the automotive space for the past several years, and I relate very much to your statement about standardization and that it's an incredibly important challenge that the industry is looking at. I think if we take a broader look at the industry, there are two vectors that the Israeli industry and probably globally have had to come to terms with. One is the reality of understanding that the automotive market is a much longer term game than anyone in the Israeli ecosystem had initially anticipated. We were all very young, hyper, and excited about and not fully aware of the reality of the challenges in this market. And it took the Israeli ecosystem some time to adjust to this. That's one vector. The other vector is that its entire industry cannot ignore or overlook the geopolitical realities of the world, of what's going on. So if you look on the professional level, it brings the realization of the time to market it means it's a very expensive game, and it requires a lot of investment and a lot of partnerships, because in many ways these investments are too much for one single company, and that implies the necessity of standardization. On the geopolitical level, there's no way for an economy the size of Israel and an industry like this to ignore the global rivalry, struggle, competition, whatever you want to call it, between the US and China, the flow of investments, the flow of technology, the reality of sanctions and prohibitions. These factors have to be taken into account. My final line is, we'll talk about this later in the panel, as we talk about standardization, we are in the middle of the the strongest standards war the industry has seen, any industry has seen, since probably VHS versus Betamax. And it's extremely expensive for everyone, and it's making it very much harder for this industry to move forward.
It's great that you are building up the tension for the next question.
That's my job.
That's good. Yakov, please.
Good morning. I'm Yakov Shahabarani, Adasky CEO. Adasky is a company. We started as a startup 8 years ago. We're currently a company located in Yokneam, about 1 hour drive north from this location. We develop, and basically we are producing now the smallest thermal camera for automotive and smart transportation solution. This is the size of the system, the camera that we were able to develop. It's a passive solution. It's based on very mature and smart algorithms and AI that embedded inside without any moving parts, that basically from day one was trying to meet a huge gap in the automotive industry, which is pedestrians' fatalities at nighttime. Going back to your question, I think that we are in a turning point. Finally, what we would witness a month ago, a policymaker, especially in the US, which is leading the industry, make a statement and a regulation and a rule. I'm talking about the National Highway, the NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety Agency, decided that basically OEMs, as of 2029, will face the same ADAS, an emergency braking system, with the same capabilities days and night. In my view, it's a turning point, because it will definitely, and we already start seeing that, we see OEMs and Tier 1s are becoming very active in order to meet these regulations. The main I think I'm coming, my background is from the aviation industry, and when I look at the numbers of fatalities in the airliners and aviation 30, 40 years ago, we were able to reduce the quantities of fatalities from 2,500 globally, 2,500 fatalities, deaths every year, to less than 100 currently. Looking at pedestrian deaths, only in the US, in the last 25 years, there is a growth of 100% of deaths at nighttime. And now eventually the policymakers is making their statement, it will impact OEMs it will bring safer emergency braking and ADAS system for level 2, level 3 and above. I think it's a turning point in the industry, and our vision and our logo is Adasky. We are driven to save lives, and we believe that that will happen very soon.
Okay, exciting times ahead. So let's work with our audience here for a minute. With a show of hands, please raise your hands if you are using ChatGPT, Gemini, or any other LLM on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Okay, I would say 10%. Raise your hands if you're using some of the more advanced, Gen AI consumer tools to organize your calendar, your agenda for the day, to summarize your meetings, to write your emails. Anyone? Okay. A few. Just quite a few. Well, the point I want to make here is that maybe on our personal lives, we have the choice of adopting new technologies or not. But on our professional life, most definitely, we cannot stay behind. We must adapt, we must adopt, and keep up. So my question to our panelists is, first connecting to your businesses, what are your biggest challenges right now? And how are you using new cool technologies to solve those problems or any other problems in your organizations? Yakov, care to start?
Yeah, I first I definitely like the word challenge rather than the problems. But I will mention two main challenges, which are good challenges. The first one is moving from technology company to production, and especially in the automotive domain, which is a conservative and it's a long process. And I think that, especially for Israeli companies, doing that alone, it's a big challenge. We are lucky to work with the close tier ones that also invested in Adasky in order to make this a huge leap to move from prototypes to mature solution and system that basically can provide safety to the pedestrians and to the vehicles themselves. I think this is the first challenge that we're facing. The second one is more, I would say, in the perception mind, especially of in the automotive industry, of thermal camera solutions. I think that if we look at this, the history of this technology in the automotive compared to defense and other domains, the perception is that it's an expensive solution and it will never reach the price of CMOS cameras, radars, etc. We are definitely not there. It's a passive solution, and I think that we see, especially with the upcoming regulations, we definitely see that the traction is different. So I think these are the two main challenges that we're currently facing.
Okay. Ariel?
Yeah, so there are various levels of challenges that we face. I'd say one of the most important ones is riding out the standards war. It's a good challenge and it's interesting, but to a large degree it arrests the development of the market because many OEMs and players are sort of waiting to see where the needle falls and where will the standards take us. And that's something which is typically not healthy for an industry, not healthy for a standards war to be continuing for so long. And because the stakes are so enormously high and there's so much money involved, then a lot of money is being pumped into prolonging this war needlessly. I think that's one thing, and that, again, brings it back to being a very expensive game to play in. And that generates the second need, which is a challenge, to generate the partnerships and the coalitions to be able to ride out these standards war. And in that context, it's how to find the ways to fund ever increasing costs of advanced process nodes, which are getting more and more expensive as the process nodes become smaller and smaller. And that requires coalitions with foundries and large players. So that's something which Israeli companies historically have not been that good at, but we're all learning that we need to be part of a coalition. I forgot what the last challenge was. It must not have been that important.
It's all good. And we will talk some more about standards in the next question.
Okay, yeah. From an OEM point of view, I would say it's more the multitude of technical challenges we have here. So it's hard to point out a single one, I would say. Specifically, I would like to mention first and foremost safety. I think we cannot pay enough gratitude and respect to those experts who provide the safety concepts, functional safety, safety of the intended function. They are really impacting the design of the system, but also the whole verification, validation concepts. So that is kind of the base of it all, I would say. And then, of course, you have also security on top that you need to consider as well. But also from automotive point of view, you have all the hardware, starting with all the sensors, with all the perception networks. You have radar, LiDAR, camera, ultrasonic sensors, car odometry, wheel speed, acceleration, gear angle, whatever. You also get localization maps inside. And in the future, that will be even more. So there will be also V2X, V2V communication data coming in. So really a lot of data to be processed in situ, live in the vehicle. And of course, that needs a lot of compute power. That needs a hardware, software solution. You need to go for hardware, software co-design in order to optimize the SoCs with the workload. So also even there is a lot of work in optimizing neural networks, in shaping them to make them run on available SoCs to reduce the need of compute and therefore also the need of power consumption in the vehicle. So it's really a multifaceted problem that affects all the vehicle architecture in general. And of course, software plays a major role, especially I think where most of the magic happens right now is in the perception and in the prediction part of the vehicle, where also AI does a lot of changes or brings us forward at the moment. And there are still things to be considered in terms of this long tail or even heavy tail distribution that we have. So you have to, in the end, you have to, in a level 3 or level 4 vehicle, you have to handle a whole variety of different driving situations, an infinite amount, pretty much. And that's, I think, getting a grip on that heavy tail distribution and being able to anticipate and to train and to learn all that. That's, of course, again, needs a lot of data management and needs good validation concepts. So I would say from an OEM, it's really the multitude of all these things coming together.
Wow. So if to sum up what you say in my words, you are very busy.
Yes, I think we all are.
And still you find the time to fly over, be here with us, so appreciate it. I think it's a very good sign that standardization, regulation is coming up in every answer that you guys are giving, because it's really some sign of maturity of the industry. So we are here to try to assess where we are on the road to autonomy, and also to understand where we are as an industry, how mature are we. For me personally, one way to judge where an industry is would be sort of the language, the terminology. Is it uniform across the industry, or is it still a fruit salad, when it comes to safety features for cars? So I think we can all agree on what is a seat belt, what is an airbag, and probably we can also agree on what is AEB, automated emergency braking. It's pretty clear by now. But when it comes to more advanced ADAS features, we see this coming to the market with various names. It's L2, it's L2+, it's Super Cruise, it's Personal Pilot, it's Drive Pilot, it's FSD sometimes. More recently, some more down-to-earth terms are coming in, like eyes off, hands off. I think they're making a lot of sense. And actually, we also see legislation on this front. In California, starting beginning of 23, it's illegal to give a misleading name to a safety feature. So I don't know if they started to enforce that, but this regulation is in place. Okay, so with that, I would have to hear your take on regulations now, maybe in a deeper dive on, where is it meeting you? What specific standards are coming in right now, and what do you see coming in the longer future? I think Ariel will be a great start point for this one.
Thanks. So, can you hear me? Yeah. So standards are kind of like another word for a coalition. That's basically what it means. And historically, especially for Israeli companies, I think you'd invent a feature, a product, and something, and try to ram it down the industry's throat. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it did not. But the automotive autonomous challenge is so gargantuan that really requires a holistic view of it. In that term, you have to find the right standards organization that will look at a car as like a comprehensive solution and offer a standard that will cover the entire car, not look at one feature at a time. And so you need really bumper to bumper standards that will cover everything: safety, security, all the connectivity, and basically the underarching chassis, if you will, or the architecture all depends on the ability to move big data from one place to another in a car, from the sensors to the ECU, whatever the architecture of the car. That's the core, and you can invent everything around it, and that's great if you have the right architecture and the right foundation of connectivity that will enable all these sensors, cameras, LiDARs, radars, whatever you want on the peripherals to effectively communicate with the brains, with the ECUs. So the industry has been at the point of trying to agree on a connectivity standard. And speaking for Valens Semiconductor, we made the decision several years ago to work with the MIPI A-PHY and we were selected as the technology foundation for that standard. And we think that's it's probably the best bet, even though we're still in the middle of a war on this, because it's the only standard that was developed from scratch to meet the changing requirements of the automotive market. Other standards that are trying to adapt themselves to legacy standards, to adapt them to the new use cases, we think that carries some financial penalties and not always the best technological solution. So that's really where the industry is, and I think that the standards are slowly maturing. We're seeing more and more RFQs and RFIs requiring A-PHY and others. So we see the industry is finally moving out of that phase of just blunt, fierce warring over the standard, and we're going to start seeing more and more implementations of these standards in the market, and we're excited to be there.
Great. Thank you. Just to be cautious of time, Yakov and Alida, if you can, in 1 minute each, give us your answer.
I think that when I look at the autonomy, AV, and it depends on the level of autonomy. The big leap and the big difference is whether the driver is responsible, i.e. level 2, level 3, or is it the OEM that is responsible, which is level 4 and above. This is a major leap. It's more, the technology is there. We can definitely provide level 5 or vehicles that will drive safe without any driver. The issue is the legal aspect and who is responsible in case of accident. Therefore, I think that that's why we are witnessing the slowdown relatively in level 4, level 5, while level 2, level 2 plus, level 3 become, I would say, the main and the prime automotive trend to provide safer vehicles, because it's still the driver responsibility. Having said that, when you look at the challenge, in my view, for policymakers, and as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a turning point because the US said its statement, and from 2029 it will look different. I think that the challenge is that the growth in the fatalities, in the deaths of pedestrians, which is basically kids and families and innocent people, happens in an incremental growth. It's not one tragedy or a big event like airliner that crashed or something like that. Therefore, the policymakers and even the public attention is not sufficient in order to make the impact on the policymakers, the politicians, and from them to the OEM, all the way to Adasky.
Got it. We're going to allow myself maybe a few more seconds, Alida, if you do.
I'll keep it short. Okay. Is it working? Yeah. I would say, first of all, of course, as an automotive builder, we would like to have legal certainty. We would like to have harmonization across countries. That is preferable from our perspective. But even more important than that is the customer side of it. Customer needs clear safety regulations. He needs to understand the product that he is buying. What does it deliver? What does it not deliver? What is expected from him as a driver? Where are the responsibilities? How is his data privacy guaranteed, especially in our very data-hungry times? So I think from a customer perspective, safety comes first and foremost. This is also why BMW co-authored a paper in 2019 together with other OEMs, with chip suppliers, with many tier ones, saying safety first for automated driving. And this was an attempt to kind of lay the foundations for a standardization of a safety concept breakdown, a systematic approach to that, and a systematic or standardized approach to validation and verification. And I think that is necessary first to give our customers the chance to really understand what they get and to be sure of the quality and safety.